Hello, third graders. I hope you are having a fantastic Friday. We are still learning about the ancient Roman civilization, and lesson 8 is all about a very important guy named Julius Caesar. So far we haven't really talked about many Roman leaders, but now we're going to start talking about specific leaders and what they did and why they're so famous. Julius Caesar is actually so famous that William Shakespeare wrote a play about him in his life. Some vocabulary that you will hear during the read aloud: alliance, an agreement between individuals or groups of people to work together to achieve a common goal. Barbarians, people who are considered by others to be very rough or improper. So if you called someone a barbarian, that would be an insult. Compromise, it's a verb, it's something you do, to make an agreement where all groups involved give up something they want in order to end an argument. Your mom might say, well, you and your brother need to compromise. You need to figure it out. Crude means simple, unpolished, uncivilized. Feud, a fight or argument between individuals or groups of people that last for a long period of time, a conflict. Negotiate, to have a discussion in order to reach an agreement. Sophisticated, developed, civilized, complex. So sophisticated would be an antonym for crude. It would be the opposite. So far we've learned some about what daily life in ancient Rome was like. What adjectives would you use to describe daily life in ancient Rome? What do you think? It probably depends on who you were, right? If you were a patrician, your life was easier than if you were a plebeian. And then both of those would have a way easier life than if you were a slave. All right. Last time we used the word brutal, right? Life in Rome could be brutal because of all the different diseases and people dying of different things, and there being shortages of food and famines and different things. It could have been brutal. So Rome started out from a monarchy, and it changed to a republic where the people got to vote for their leaders, right? The citizens got to vote, right? The government of the United States is a republic, and we borrowed important ideas such as veto power and the process of checks and balances from the Roman Republic. Rome's given us a lot of really interesting things that we still use today. So Rome has been expanding. It's been getting bigger and taking over more land. An empire usually consists of an area of land that is larger than a kingdom. An empire is a vast area of land consisting of many different regions ruled by one government and by one person. Today you'll hear about a man who started Rome's shift from being a republic to an empire. An empire is ruled by one leader called an emperor, right? The man who started this change was Julius Caesar. You will hear the name Julius Caesar or just Caesar throughout your life. You may have already heard this name many times. Julius Caesar is one of the most famous Romans who ever lived. His full name was Gaius Julius Caesar, and he was born in 100 BC. Remember, BC means before Christ, when the Roman Republic was a little more than 400 years old. His ancestors belonged to one of Rome's oldest patrician families, the Iuli. Julius Caesar was a Roman consul and skilled general who won many battles and greatly expanded Rome's territory. We know a lot about him because stories about his life and accomplishments have been written and also passed down orally through history. In fact, while he was alive, Julius Caesar wrote some stories himself about his own life. Julius Caesar had many impressive accomplishments. If someone writes down their own story about their own life, that's called an autobiography. So if you do it for yourself, auto means by yourself, that prefix, biography. So it means you wrote about your own life. Julius Caesar became a soldier at a young age. Originally, he was nominated to become a priest of Jupiter, which was a very powerful religious position in Rome. However, a family feud erupted between his family and another important patrician family. As a result, Julius Caesar left Rome and joined the army instead. Do you remember what Jupiter's role was as god? He was believed to be the king of the Roman gods and goddesses, so to be a priest for Jupiter was super important. Julius Caesar was a fine soldier, and he soon became well known throughout the army. For his bravery, he was awarded a civic crown, which was a simple crown made of oak leaves. A civic crown was a very important honor and represented a soldier's bravery. Only very important Romans earned the right to wear one. Look at the crown on Caesar's head. This is what a civic crown looked like. The ancient Greeks awarded similar crowns to the winners in the Olympic Games. It's pretty cool looking. After a few years in the army, Julius Caesar returned to Rome and became involved in politics. The word politics refers to the activities involved in running a government. In a republic, making laws, going to war, collecting taxes, and other government actions all require agreement between various people in the government. In Rome, the consuls, senators, and other Roman officials all had to work together to solve problems. However, when it came to governing the areas Rome controlled, there were always disagreements about what the role of government should be. In order to get things done, politicians formed an alliance with other politicians who agreed with them. In Roman politics, there was power in numbers. If a group of politicians formed an alliance, then together they had an easier time convincing other people to go along with them. What powerful elite group of Roman society was most likely to work in politics or government? That's right, the patricians. Julius Caesar formed a political alliance with another soldier, a very rich man named Pompey. Together they set out to gain the things they wanted, such as land and power. Julius Caesar was elected to a number of special political offices, even though he had as many enemies as he had friends. He worked his way up the political ladder until he finally became one of the two consuls at the top of the government. So here's a picture, an illustration of Caesar and Pompey. Do you think this means that Julius Caesar literally climbed a ladder? Did he have to climb up a ladder to get to the top of the government? No, it's a figurative meaning. So it's not the literal meaning. It means that someone can start at the bottom in a lowly position, but through hard work and clever ways can often move up to a higher, more powerful position. That's what it means when it says he climbed the ladder. Remember, the consuls had a great deal of power. To keep some of that power under control, the two consuls worked together with a process of checks and balances. They could not take any action until both consuls agreed. If one consul wanted a new law to be passed and the other consul did not like the law, then the two of them would have to negotiate and compromise and make whatever changes were necessary in order to come to an agreement. All right, so when a consul would say, I forbid, they would veto something. It would be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. I veto it, so it wouldn't happen. To negotiate and compromise both involve people talking to one another and reaching an agreement that both can accept. Consuls served for just 1 year. After that, they often became proconsuls. Proconsuls were often governors of provinces, the lands beyond Italy that the Roman army had conquered. The red areas on this map show Roman territory around the time of Julius Caesar's birth in 100 BC, shortly after the end of the Punic Wars. You can see that after the Punic Wars, Rome controlled most of the land around the Mediterranean Sea. So this map is a great text feature to show us what part of the different continents Rome owned before Caesar, and then after Caesar died, how much more they had, and then when Rome was its greatest, look how much land they had. That's a lot right there. all those colors. After his term as consul, Julius Caesar became proconsul of a number of provinces to the north and east of Italy. Julius Caesar was in charge of Rome's northern frontier. As proconsul, he had a number of legions at his command and decided that his job was to use his armies to expand Roman territory farther to the north. In these northern provinces, the Romans built roads, towns, and temples. One of Caesar's jobs as proconsul was to protect Roman property in these areas. Julius Caesar decided it would be a good idea if he went out and conquered these lands for Rome. There he is. He's like, I'm going to conquer this one, and this one, and this one right there. The only problem was that the areas he wanted to conquer were full of what were considered by some as barbarians. That is what many Romans called some of the people who didn't speak their language and who had a different culture than theirs. The Romans did not consider these people to be an advanced society because they did not have roads, aqueducts, massive marble arenas, or temples. The Romans considered these people to be uncultured. To someone accustomed to the sights and sounds of the vibrant city of Rome and all that Roman civilization had to offer, the homes and lifestyles of those outside of Rome may have seemed crude or unpolished. To the common Roman mind, they would be doing these barbarians a favor by conquering them and forcing them to adopt Roman ways and culture. Even though they did not have aqueducts or grand forums like Rome, other groups had their own cultures and accomplishments. So, do you think it was nice of the Romans to take them over? Do you think those people wanted Rome to come over and take control? Probably not. The people to the north of Rome that the Romans considered barbarians could basically be put into two categories: the Gauls and the Germanic tribes. Gauls lived in the area of present-day France, and their Germanic tribes were spread across a large area of Central and Northern Europe. Julius Caesar first turned his attention to the Gauls. He spent much of the next 10 years fighting to conquer and control Gaul, but it seemed there was always another Gallic or Germanic tribe ready to rise up and fight Roman expansion. There were many Gallic tribes, each following its own king or chieftain and its own set of laws and customs. The Gauls' way of life was more sophisticated than the Romans expected. The Gallic tribes often traded and cooperated with each other. They had their own money, their own religion, and their own traditional stories, songs, and dances. The Gauls were excellent ironworkers or blacksmiths. They made impressive weapons and armor. More important, the Gauls were brave warriors. They knew how to fight well and sometimes outnumbered the Romans in some areas that the Romans wanted to conquer. So they were not easy to conquer. At the time when Julius Caesar was given the province of Gaul as a proconsul, he needed money to make things happen and to become further recognized. He also needed to show that he was not someone to be pushed around by his enemies. He looked at Gaul as a wonderful opportunity, a massive area of land and people to conquer. He hoped that because they all answered to their own chieftains, the Gauls would be easy to divide and conquer. Things went well for Julius Caesar at first. Soon stories were reaching Rome of how his legions had fought and conquered their way throughout Gaul, destroying towns, taking slaves, and capturing valuable resources such as iron, silver, and excellent farmland. But as you will soon hear, not all battles went smoothly for Julius Caesar. The Gallic soldiers also had a brave leader, Vercingetorix, who provided a true challenge for Caesar and his legions. So in this illustration, you can see Julius Caesar is writing about these triumphs in battle in his autobiography. So that's the end of today's. So we will hear more about Julius Caesar and the new Empire of Rome in Vercingetorix, the Gallic soldier who was a brave leader for the Gauls. What is Caesar wearing on his head in this picture? Is it just a fun headband? It's the civic crown of oak leaves. What attributes or characteristics did Julius Caesar possess that earned him the civic crown? Use examples from the read aloud to support your answer. Well, he was brave and he was intelligent and ambitious. He had the desire to conquer many areas. And he was a patrician, right? So he could get important stuff more than if he had been a plebeian or a slave for sure. What kind of family did Julius Caesar come from? The elite Julii family, one of the oldest and most powerful patrician families. Why did Julius Caesar not become a priest of Jupiter after he was nominated or chosen for this position? There was a feud or conflict with another patrician family that kept him from being able to take this position. He joined the army instead. You heard that instead of being a priest, Julius Caesar decided to become a soldier in the army. Was he a successful soldier? Yes, he was. How do you know? Well, one clue is he was awarded a civic crown for his bravery. So he must have been a pretty good soldier to get that. After serving in the army, what did Julius Caesar do next? He became a politician or person who worked in the government. And then as a politician, he became a consul. And after his 1 year as a consul, he became a proconsul. What are some attributes of a good leader? Based on what you've heard so far, do you think Julius Caesar was a good leader? Why or why not? Our word for today is negotiate. In the read aloud, you heard about the Roman consuls that the two of them would have to negotiate and compromise and make whatever changes were necessary in order to come to an agreement. Say the word negotiate. Negotiate means to have a discussion in order to try to reach an agreement. So your parents might tell you that you need to negotiate, or you might try to negotiate with your parents to get a better allowance. So you might be like, well, I'll do this and this and this, and then this is what I would spend my money on, and I really do deserve it. So you're trying to convince someone and negotiate. And your parents might come back to you and be like, well, you might want $10 a week, but I'm only giving you $7 because of this and this. And then you might go back and negotiate and be like, can we make it $8 if I do this and this? So you're working together to find an answer to something. Good job, third graders. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Julius Caesar. We will learn more next time, and have a good rest of the day.